This world is not what you think it is. This world is not what you think it is.
The control system, the global control system, wants us to focus on a dot. This is what it does in science with its specializations. You focus on one dot. And if you focus on a dot without peripheral vision, then you don't see how the dots connect. So you're completely in the dark of the bigger picture. You only see one dot within it.
Mama didn't tell me that the world is unreal. Imaginary story, lies and unreal. Live through the lies and the truth and fairy tale lies don't have a Prince of Wales. I never get told what is real and true. That's why I put truth out of the blue. Never really did. No one really cares what our heart it hurts. This world is Merci.
The control system, the global control system, wants us to focus on a dot. This is what it does in science with its specializations. You focus on one dot. And if you focus on a dot without peripheral vision, then you don't see how the dots connect. So you're completely in the dark of the bigger picture. You only see one dot within it.
This world is not what you think it is. This world is not what you think it is.
Druzhinin, right?
Yeah, it's really stupid. When you like see S and H, you always say sh, and when you see Z and H, you don't know what to say. Druzhinin. No, it's just Druzhinin. The word J is closer to J maybe sometimes, but I don't know. Like juice, Druzhinin.
Druzhinin. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Union.
Okay.
Okay. Hanian. Okay. Awesome.
It's really like a friendship. So and also maybe like an army, ancient army. So friendship, ancient army, and in some languages it's like a wife.
Right.
Okay.
Because wife is a friend, right? So and also is your supporter and your army.
How many languages do you speak now? How many languages do you?
I don't speak much languages. I know a bunch of Russian words, of course, and a couple of Ukrainians and a couple of maybe French. I'd say it's a basic knowledge of French.
Okay. Nice. Well, this is a mud flood topic that we're going to talk about here today on Connecting the Dots. And we got a special guest with us, Philipp Druzhinin. Hope I said it right. And he's been, into this topic for over 2 years now that I've seen, and did extraordinary research. His links to his channel and his research will be in the description. And basically just have to start this open discussion on this topic, because there's a lot of ideas out there and there's a lot of people saying this, saying that. I came forward with some of my research I did, and I kind of like came to a conclusion that something happened within the 17th century. Not knowing for sure what happened, but because of all the missing links and there's ones that are there's I's that are interpreted as ones or J's. Are we 1,000 years behind? Or are we 1,000 years in front? What is this topic, mud flood? What is actually are we talking about? Most people don't even know about this topic. About Tartaria, was the biggest empire ever. To find out that we know of, and it's totally been erased from history. And so a lot of these pieces to this puzzle, the architecture and the storyline. And I came to made a video called Mud Flood, The Untold Story about our history.
Yeah, it's I don't know what to start. Okay, but first of all, I don't think that Tartaria. Okay.
Can I ask a question? Is Atlantis got anything to do with this as well?
As for what I know, and it was written in some Russian so-called Vedas, and they were misinterpreted by a bunch of people, and then they were shamed like it's misleading information, and were called a bunch of names, and those people got in jail actually. And it's prohibited information right now in Russia. Everybody's going to jail if you get caught with those books, and literally it's just a crime that was made up to catch those people for this information. And literally it's like 99% Russian people that are right now in the prisons for this information. So this is like a very, very itchy information. And this information shows us that the empire of Atlantis never existed. It was a union of empires. And as what I think, it was a trade union. So it was like a cultural and a trade union, right? Okay. And perhaps it has many centers, and those centers were close, not close, but they were connected like a network. Okay.
Right.
So a network of highly advanced trade centers.
Yes.
This is what they are building right now. If you look around, you'll see regions that are completely empty with structurals and all this, like lack of people, like in Wyoming, Montana, Colorado, and you see highly potential productional centers, and you see trade centers. So those trade centers are connected right now with the people. And of course, they collect the people, they collect the minds. That's what they did back then, but they were more like, I think, more natural. So they were like more ecological, I think. But still, we don't know. It's just information, but we can interpret it this or other way. As for me, I don't like going so back in the history line. I like to stay like in 19th century, not less. Maybe touch some Atlantis information, but I interpret Atlantis as some process that were changing, and Tartaria became some center, British Empire became a center, and all those centers had a conflict between them. So this is what
once upon a time, like a single culture.
Yeah, it was just a cultural, the union, like we have in Star Wars. We had a trade union that had a really, high potential of controlling all those Senate and all this. You watched the Star Wars, right?
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
you're aware of those trade unions. They were
Yes.
this is the trade union. So they were a bunch of. Yeah, they were a bunch of good people, of course, and there were somebody who were trying to be parasitic, So probably somebody wants to change the information, hide Atlantis as some city that was sunk, something like this. And this is just all this flood conspiracy that we know since the Noah times, right?
Would you say that would you agree maybe that what is buried and what is gone and what's been lost and what's now underwater, could that have been the better part of us, the better part of the union that's been buried?
As for me, I don't think that it's all buried. It's all sticking around, but we're looking at it just like an ordinary buildings, an ordinary artifacts. We don't understand what it's this, how it's working. Was it, wireless electricity system, or was it something like, atmospheric, plasma controlled, operational centers? Who knows? Because we don't understand. We're like monkeys on with the grenade, with a hand grenade. We don't know what it is, Oh, okay. So this is what we do right now. So we can, blow up the world and don't understand how it's working. This is simple.
And one question I've got, Philip, I'm wondering if you can indulge me on this. I'm pretty new to this, but I'm in my own little way trying to connect the dots and trying to work out how we got to be where we're at just now. And I know that's pretty much the $64,000 question, but could these mudfloods possibly be connected to, us splitting as civilizations and having our separate civilizations that we have now, different cultures that we have now separated by water? Could that be part and parcel of how we got to be where we are?
In any conflict of two sides, there's a third side which is operating those two sides to be in conflict. So we of course understand, if we are not profiting from this, somebody is profiting from this situation that we have. So probably those outside controllers are always in hand, and they are getting all this profit from this information and from this situation, or from this state we have right now. So perhaps what I can say about it, that somebody from outside cells, from outside worlds that are located near us, are always looking around and watching what we're doing here. So probably somebody is controlling this stuff, and probably all this territory is controlled by those parasitic forces. Otherwise we would have something changing, but we don't have it. We see the same thing every day, and they just pushing and pushing and pushing, and screwing us. It's literally the word in English. What they're doing, they're screwing us. What we've been told in the history lessons is just a bull.
Like, have you? I know I've seen you did extensive research and actually recording these buildings. I mean, people could walk past these buildings 1,000 times and not know what they're actually looking at. And have you did any history on finding out when these buildings were built? because I know if you kind of look into that, they're going to give you some story. Oh, they were built in sometime in the 1800s, but it doesn't match up with how people were living, horses and carriages. The time frame doesn't add up, and you know what I mean. And like, have you did any research?
Yeah. Simple answer to this question. When you look at the picture from some artist or some photo picture which is dated exactly the year, and the year, like it's like 1865, you see the building, it's there, and it's already have these bird first floors and stuff like this, windows sticking from the ground and stuff like this. So you can make an answer or solution that this was in this year, so it was before the year the picture was taken, right? So and you add up like a decade for this okay, let's not press the people with this information of the reset time, but if you add this reset time for the next people to come in the town after the flood, because the flood is not what we know, it's not just water flood. It's a mud flood. You have to understand that, because mud flood is exactly paralyzes all the area. You cannot, walk around. There's no boats. There's no safeguards. Nobody's saving you. You just die in those houses. Then, for what I think, they just clean out the houses. They clean out all this furniture. They clean out all these books. They burn them or whatever they do with them. Just those fire brigades, firemen, so-called bomberos come and clean up the areas. Those marauders, whatever you call them, and those brigades, cleaning up all this area, then bringing new people.
It's a concerted effort to keep us stuck in some type of paradigm, like stuck in this paradigm of so that we can't, connect the dots on what's going on. And the reason why that I say that, something happened like because we don't look, there's obvious clues with the architecture that's here. How many resets has happened? Is it a reset every 500 years? What's going on? And the reason why that I think that the last big reset happened was the 17th century, because there's overwhelming evidence of the research that you did, Conspiracies Are Us, Martin, and a few other people, right? And exactly, and of these ghost cities, where you see all these photos, like no one's here, and like no one's around. So, and I don't think that the official number, they said we have like over 7 billion people on Earth right now. I don't think that's the case. I don't think that's the official number, and that number is anywhere near correct. But it had to take some time for people to populate and grow. And then you see like the fondlings, there's another connecting the dots. So when you look at this, you're kind of like, well, wait a minute, all this, something had what I'm trying to tell you is the bubonic plague. I'm not buying that at all. That wiped out 60% of the population. I'm not buying that. I think that we are the survivors of a cataclysm. I'm saying cataclysm is a mud flood that happened on a huge level that encased half this earth into mud. Am I right, or am I in the right direction? Or steer me. I'm one of your students, Philip. So steer me in the right direction. That's why I want to have this dialogue, man.
You started to talk about the 17th century, but still there's no evidence of any pictures that have been shown exactly this is the 17th century. I haven't seen any pictures from 17th century. Latest photographs that we see are 1860s, 1850s, right? And all those pictures could be edited and repainted by different. So we see like one picture and a bunch of reproductions of one single picture, and we see like one with the column. Look, another painter paints the same but no column, and this the year is after, so or something like this. So there's a bunch of all this unpuzzling information. This don't fit in the concept, because you see one author draws the Alexander column with the like a building around it. Another author draws like it's standing on a huge field of and there's like a squared floor, and there's no squared floor right now. And this stone under the column, where is it right now? We have a picture of this stone and a bunch of people standing on the stone, all those builders, all those workers standing on this huge block that is right now supposed to be under the column, and we don't see it right now. I've been a bunch of times in St. Petersburg. There's nothing, and it's under the under the pavement right now, because it was flooded. The whole area was flooded. Even the Winter Palace, which is in front of this column, also was flooded, and they have those little windows sticking from the ground, which is like, so it's like flooded for like at least 5 meters deep, and it's near the river. And this whole city of St. Petersburg, if you look at it, it has like an area in front of it towards the Baltic Sea, which could be the missing Atlantis city. It has all this architecture that is described, and it perfectly fits with the circle system that could be drawn in mind on those who read those books, and they can see exactly this is Atlantis. And we can, bring a bunch of those evidence on other cities and also say this is Atlantis because it has the same structure. So there were a bunch of cities, a bunch of them, and they also been perpetrated by those parasites after all, and they got them, they renamed it, rebranding. All this word brand is a huge mystery. It's just the brand is a firewall between what we know and what we don't know. So brand like this is also a firewall between the information that is inside this brand.
So when do you think? So we're all on the same page. We know Noah's flood happened. Are you trying to tell me that? Let me get this straight. That there possibly wasn't no 17th century, or everything started in the 19th century. We were just introduced to these cities.
I think they could be bringing the books from the different cells, and mixing it up for us so we can, read. Like Fomenko and Nosovsky, they figured out all this fake stuff from different books. They found all these computer programs, and those programs went through those texts and found all this, parsed all those texts, found all this misleading information, all those fake information, fake blogs, and they posted a bunch of books about it. But what they don't understand is this is all fake. They think about it as original documents, but they could be brought from anywhere. They could be mixed up, and all those documents are just the copies of the documents that were copied before. So like it's a double copy of some documents from 15th century, 16th century. You won't have it. Nobody will give you from the archives the real documents, because they are all copies from the documents that were copied before those documents. And this is just the same. So all the original documents that we see is like 17th, 18th, and 19th century right now. That's why people like trying to pull the mud flood to the 17th century. And I think this is conspiracy. That's like, I'm working with the negative information. If I want to, like brand cat, like I have negative information about brand cat. So what can I do? I cannot pessimize it like this and just erase it from the internet, right? So I'm starting to make this information in a different media cases, like this post and this post, and this is social media post, this is a newspaper, this is TV show, this is a YouTube video, and I'm like flooding, and from the 19th century, which is really close and brings people itchy. 19th century is like 200 years ago, right? Ooh, this is very, very interesting. And when you say 17th century, man, 17th century.
So let's get people, so everybody's on the same page, our viewers, everybody on the same page. The 17th century is anywhere between the 1600s and the late 1700s. Let me get that right? And the 19th century is anywhere between the late 1800s to the early 1900s, right?
No, I think it's 1830s to 1840s, like this. So this is just as close as I can aim towards the date.
Absolutely. So let me ask you a question. Those buildings that you see in Moscow or in Russia, a lot of work that Rebel Without a Pause is doing, you're saying that when do you think that event happened? That put all the...
We see pictures with empty cities of 1860s, 1850s, right? So if this is what the reset time, so like go 10 years before that, and this is the date. So it's like 50s and 40s, okay? So if you see it in 60s, then at least it was something like this, because you cannot expand this period of time for very long, because people will die. And nobody will can manage this. My daughter's crying here.
No, I mean, that's fine. That's fine.
You have to understand that you have to grow some kids that you can place, and those kids supposed to don't have any parents. So how long a kid grows, like to be a teenager? So it's like a 5-6-year-old kids, not a 2 or 3-year-old kids, because they will actually die without parents, right? So it's like 5 to 10-year-old kids. You grow them towards being a teenager and growing towards being 20, 30-year-old person, which can work. And they are the main base for this new reset generation, which is managing the city after all. And they are brainwashed since the childhood. They are controlled by those firemen that can do all this stuff. This is the theory.
Wow.
It's really good presented by Ray Bradbury, the writer that you personally have in the United States. Just read his books, and I think he's brought this technology of reset very good.
Oh my gosh, that's mind blowing right there. So basically, yeah, definitely write that down. I want to look at that too. Basically, so what I'm gathering is we're not in the 2018. We're basically in maybe 1018.
In Russia, we have like 7,564. So I think this is the correct year, because it was erased. This date base was erased. So like Jews have like 5,000, something like this. And so I think it's pretty close to what I know. It's like 7,000 years, I think, that we have right now in the calendar of really, living here.
Okay. So about 7,000 years. Oh, wow.
Can I ask a question? And just shoot me down and say no if this has got nothing to do with it. Does the Renaissance have anything to do with any mud floods, any erasing of history? Because I did look into some Renaissance information, and it would seem that there was a lot of defacing of art around those times, and a lot of changing of the art depictions and moderating and adapting them, and I suppose old school photoshopping was done. Is there any truth to, because I've looked into it, and I just wanted to know, is there any, and would you know, you might not know, but is there any truth to the amount of defacing that went on through the Renaissance? Because with the fact that you're from Russia, what I did look at was that Russia was pretty devout in holding on to their heritage, and when other countries were getting defaced, Russia kind of held on a little bit longer than everyone else. Is there any connections with the Renaissance to any mud floods?
I don't quite understand what is Renaissance. If you think it's an era of rebuilding, of course, it's just a good word to cover up all this information. Okay. But I think it's just a brand. Of course, it's a brand, a firewall between the truth and the BS that we know. So, of course, it represents some process, and we know, just like medieval people started to think, oh, we're doing it wrong. Let's do it the right way. What we can do, we go to the antique times and get all this information from antique times, and represent it right now in our era, and this is Renaissance. Yeah, when we reach certain level, they do the reset. If we don't fit in that paradigm, if we don't work good, if we don't collect as much profit or something like this, or maybe some stupid king or controller says, "Let's do the reset. It's okay." Okay, who knows? Because those people are, just crazy because they are mad in this paradigm, or maybe they are just, saviors of our world. Maybe they see, oh, if we go this way, like 50 years, no more world will blow up. Let's do the reset, right, and save the world. Who knows?
Well, my partner, made Roxanne, she and I kind of like are sort of like on this page where there's evidence of them hiding lands from all the ancient maps. I mean, these same people that are making all these lands are just completely disappearing off these maps. And we're thinking that it was, that this is where the controllers are, this is their land. And they're just controlling us from a distance, keeping us stuck in this paradigm.
I concur with that. I think we can all concur that beyond the outer 60th parallel, everything's up for conjecture. Everything. None of us can prove definitively what's beyond that 60th parallel, right? I mean, whether it goes on infinitely or whether it goes on for a specific amount of time, I think we've all got to the point now where we realize we're hemmed in with an invisible picket fence that we shall not pass without expressive military permission or breaking every law, international law known to mankind. There are some people that do think that the Antarctic Treaty is a bit of a myth in its own right, as all we've got is written legislation about it. But one thing I did want to say to you, Philip, is in all the time that you've done the research that you've done looking into the topics you've looked into, have you found any evidence whatsoever in any of your findings that they were holding on to the Copernican model prior to that reset? Have you found any evidence at all? Because I've got a funny feeling we're not going to find anything that can correlate the Copernican model.
The problem is that the ancient people were more advanced. They were, their brain were more advanced, and they understood the definitions of the real definitions of the objects, of the words. And this is what we lost. Yeah, because sometimes I try to, start spelling the words, comparing them from different language and get the definition to the people. So what we know as the globe model or Copernicus model is just a 3D model of what we have, because this is a 4D world. Okay, 4D world cannot fit in this, just a single flat surface. Because if you start navigating it, you eventually come up from the other side. And of course, this is a 3D model of the world, 3D maps. Just, understand this, because this is very important, because the world we know represents the cell. So this is the cell. That's why people understand that there is some dome above us. How can you see a dome if you have a flat surface? Only if you are in the cell. So the cell block, or whatever you call it, or just a cell in your body. It's just a single cell with this, outside and inside layers that you cannot, go through unless you are, dying something like this. So you cannot go out because you're in a 3D world. That's the problem. So, and they represented it allegorically as a globe. And this is what was caught up by all those parasitic creatures, and they started making money on this, because every good idea brings money. If you cannot make money, you don't promote it, right? You don't make a marketing strategy. You don't do all this stuff. You don't hire people. You cannot hire people if you don't have the financing. So this is what financing them, and we paying them for this, allegoric model of the ancient times that was presenting us by the Atlas holding this ball above his head. Just for the stupid people, it's a globe, and for the thinking people that can, look around and see what's inside, make some research, they understand they're on the flat surface, right? And they understand that something is above us. You cannot, just go through it. Otherwise, we would have some evidence of that. And we don't have it, right? Or we have just the fake CGI pictures of somebody's going outside. Nobody's going outside. You can go outside if you die, or if you have the technology to teleport yourself. That's why ancient have all those portals, and those portals representing the doorways and pathways between those cells. This is only the way how could this be working. You cannot, contact the person from the other cell without this device. And those devices right now are all around us, and we're watching them and understand what this
What they
is.
are. Is that what you thinking?
cannot-
Like those? Is that what you're thinking? Like those ancient cathedrals that they turned in, those machines that are turned into churches that Martin goes over. You think that they have something to do with?
I cannot catch up with all these Martin videos because I'm working really busy right now. So if you maybe next time you
Yeah,
lead
absolutely.
to specific video time code on this video, or maybe a screenshot, and we can talk about it. But for what I know, I had a video about this, and probably it was one of my first videos about the ancient teleports and all these devices of the ancient times. I had a couple of those videos.
Okay.
I have playlists with these ancient technologies and all this advanced cathedral, and see if you have this one. So probably it was some type of a teleport or projection device, is what I think.
Oh,
Probably this is the way they contacted, like a Skype call or something like this, and they could be chatting and bringing this information to
absolutely.
the people.
But we also know from Google Earth about that there was ancient civilizations and like ancient roads, ancient railroads. I mean, you can find it on Google Earth, and then you look on Google Earth how they terraform this place. I believe that some of these mountains that we think that are just natural, that are not natural, they were where Titans were. I think that's why people get a lot of the Nephilim from, is because of the Titans, before the giants. I mean, the Titans, the real big ones. And when I looked at that evidence, and there's overwhelming evidence that there were Titans. I'm talking about 3 miles high, 3 miles high, Titans that first roamed this earth and terraformed this place. I mean, literally, it looks like someone took big doses. We know that the Grand Canyon is just an old quarry, like a mining. It looks like a mining, like somebody mined that out. Wise Up, I don't know if you know Wise Up. Wise Up is a YouTube channel, one of my favorite YouTube channels. He exposes the archaeology fraud. He's saying with these old structures that they got rebar, steel structures inside these concrete structures that were made. And the reason why I want to talk about that is because my next question is, there's overwhelming evidence of these starforts all over the world, made out of concrete and steel structures, where they're actually going underground. All these starforts literally are connected. They can actually go underground, these starforts, and to connect to other starforts. And I'm thinking, from my research, that these starforts were in place, that they had completely told us a bunch of BS. What they were used for was to protect, like, the upper echelon, the aristocrats, from this ancient technology that caused liquefaction, from the fascists, or that they had, where they can turn the ground into cymatic patterns from a frequency. And there's evidence of starforts underwater, and there's evidence that they got better with that technology. And there's also evidence of starforts being built on top of other starforts. So what's your kind of research on that? I queued up a video that you did with starforts, but go ahead and kind of walk us through that about starforts.
You've touched like a couple of topics which could be lasting for like 10 hours, right?
Yeah, I was going to say a good marathon.
Okay, so I never got under any starforts, but my friends were inside some of them, and what we have is there are no evidence of concrete and rebar in most of them, but they had some structures. Perhaps it's a reasonable thing, so we cannot say it's not true right now.
Right.
If you can show me what you're talking about, what you're based on.
Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. Let me Let me share. I can get you. I'm already queued up.
No worries. Yeah.
Right here. So let's have a look at this. On what I've noticed with the bases of these underground, they're all concrete. I'm from Brooklyn, New York, and Coney Island. Have you ever been there before?
I've been to New York. I've been to Queens and
If you notice, all that stuff.
Manhattan.
Oh,
This
okay.
is just it's not concrete. The problem is that most of those Starforts were rebuilt a bunch of times.
Yes.
And I even had a Google Earth comparison of the area. When you see the completely filled, no Starforts, next year we'll see like it's raising a little bit, and then you see it's unearthed, an unearthed Starfort like this. So this
wow.
just amazing. How can they be faking information? So we have to understand one thing: they were all built from the bricks first, and what we see around them is probably the so-called insulation layers of blocks, or maybe even concrete blocks, but small blocks, not the whole huge blocks that we know in Baalbek or something like this, like or pyramid blocks. So just not not very large blocks that are surrounding them from the water, and they can be insulating the brick layers inside. The thick layer is the brick layer, and this is always red brick. This is the information that is 100% proved.
Okay.
All the Starforts are made from the red bricks, right?
Okay.
Second, nobody have confirmed about the tunnels yet, but I know the tunnels do exist, but I cannot say exactly were they the Starforts, the stations of the tunnels, or maybe some subway, but there could be some transportational system underground that could be connecting them. Of course, this is supposed to be researched further. Again, what are the Starforts? First, they probably were the mining operational units. Maybe the second time they were this one, exactly, the red brick one.
Red bricks, yes. And you see how this is the out of place object right here.
Yeah.
They came at a different time, and they cut this out and stuck this here. This is an out of place object. This is the red brick you're talking about. What I was talking about is below the red bricks. But it's interesting that you said that.
So could be foundational levels. I've said before, I've never been in the Starfront, but my friends were, and they could be having this structure underneath. Who knows? Maybe because they were built by different persons, and somebody could be constructing them from the material that is more cheaper to them in that single place, and maybe somebody could be making more advanced foundations with the concrete if they had the material and the rebar and all this structure. You have to understand one thing. What is the Starfort? It's the outpost or farpost for those who were parasiting us, who were mining us, first of all. And after reset, those Starforts were captured by the parasites and probably were used for their own purposes, like creating the castles, creating the fortresses and stuff like this. So this is, first of all, there were mining operational units, because the whole Earth, as you said in your previous question, were terraformed and mined.
Right.
But the misleading information about this is the height of the giants. Okay, of course you can have a giant like 10 or 12 or even 15 feet tall, and we see the windows and the doors that in comparison to this height are fitting those giants, but we don't see the windows, the doors, and the houses for the giants you've told, like 100 feet tall, 20 feet tall, at least, maybe 50 feet tall, or a mile tall, or 2 miles tall. Probably those giants would eat everything in this world before we would start to creating something. So there's no feeding base for those huge height people right now. So if they were erased by somebody who was controlling those giants to operate the cell and to terraform it, so the next generations can come, probably this is a good version, but we have to research it.
Absolutely.
And I'm not confirming exactly the giants in the hills and those giants in the mountains, because I didn't have enough time to research it, so I never did confirm it, and I never did
Right.
gave any negative feedback. I only, when I see this is not when I see a concrete block and I say it's a concrete block, I don't say it's just a bone of some giant. I see a perpendicular concrete block. I say it's a concrete block. So this is
Exactly.
if you show me exactly what you're talking about, the frozen giants or something like this. There's a bunch of allegories in the Facebook and a bunch of, and I'm liking those. And actually, sometimes I'm sharing those when I see a face of some giant, something like this, or maybe a giant lane, and it looks like a mountain. Right now, who knows? I'm really sharing those videos and sharing those pictures, and I'm asking people, what do you think? So
Absolutely.
probably some legends show us that they're huge people, but how tall they were people? So I don't think they had a feeding base for lasting that long, so they can exterminate the whole world, exterminate all this feeding base, and just what they gonna do? One single giant, two giants would be fighting, and three giants would be, it's just a whole whole big, gangbang there. I don't know what they're gonna be doing all this time, because they will eat everything in like a month, right? So what are they gonna do?
Well, I'm thinking everything what this place was way before like people, like humanoids like me and you. Was around. This place was much different. You got basalt, that's what this place, the pillars, and you had soil, and you had gigantic trees, right? Yeah. And you had these, everything was big, everything was big, because there was like more oxygen on Earth. Everything was big, and they terraformed this place. They ripped this place apart, mined the hell out of it. And they were, I believe that they was the original Freemasons, and before, and they got petrified or wiped out, and the smaller giants, the 15-foot giants, the 17-foot giants, are the ancestors, or the descendants of those titans. I mean, you could tell by the RH and RH negative blood, RH positive, RH negative blood, that there's different types of humanoids. I mean, our DNA is, is a code. So, and what I'm saying is that these big megalith structures that are in Russia and that's all over the world, that were still left behind from these original builders. So, and there's different time frames. So I'm thinking like there was plenty of resets. Like they just keep resetting this place. And they would give us stories like this stuff was built like in the 1800s, and that's not the case at all. It doesn't match up to reality. And what I've been looking at is trying to figure out what's underneath these Starforts, and there's a lot of evidence of them connecting to each other. And when I look at this, Philip, this is concrete to me. This is a Starfort. This doesn't look like petrified wood. This is concrete. And there's evidence. Of course.
But this is not just, as you can see, these are blocks, but they look like modern ones, probably right. The reconstructions here. And those are just the caves through the concrete.
Okay. Right. Exactly. Or but there's a lot of a lot of the research that you've done. I mean, it's just telling it's from a different time. It's a different time, and it's from a different time. Like this is, I look at this and I look at what I always say, wise up a lot, because I never knew that the builders from the past was so advanced. I mean. That's why they want us to believe that, believe into the aliens and that the technology came from them. But we just re-engineer the technology that was left behind, by the people that was here before us. And these are what's out of place structures. these are out of place objects. They just put these there, to hide all of this stuff. This is obviously like rock and stuff.
We should make a unique video, or not unique video, just a single video, single chat about the Starforts. I'd be more prepared for what you say, and I prepare my pictures, and probably will structurize what with my evidence that I have right now, and all this information what the Russian researchers have right now with the Russian pictures, Russian videos. So it would be good to mix it with what guys, and maybe this will add to your knowledge and your theory more. But
absolutely.
What I wanted to say is, as I said before, you have to be financed by something. So follow the money, always follow the money. You have to understand that if there were giants, or if there were Starforts, somebody was, profiting from that. So think about it, first of all. Okay?
That's amazing.
So if they were abandoned by somebody, and, just, for what? So probably they just, restructured the control and change the elites, and simply still controlling it for what? We're supposed to understand that we are the human resource, so they always mind us. Although they mind it all around, they mind us every time. So we are the real resource here. Our experience, our creativity, our new ideas is the resource for those people that I'm calling the parasitic control. Okay, the rest is just a cover up for those who control them, and they are getting all the real resources from our land. We are the human resource for those who control this world right now.
Yes, it's like a management tier, isn't it? Like tier 3, tier 2, tier 1, the CEO at the top. Management structure of control.
Of course,
parasitic management structure.
It's just a corporation network. Okay, and if it was a trade union, or if it was a productional union or mining union, they always did it. They always mined it. But of course, you cannot feed all those gigantic people. So sooner or later, you run out of your resources, and those gigantic creatures, they just die? They were so smart to control all those worlds around them, and they just die? No, I think just go to the next world, and to the next world, and to the next world, and for some, some backup, for some, cover up, they leave their people, or those that the semi-gods, or maybe their deputies, or whoever, the elites, maybe descendants, whatever you call them, the bloodline people, the offspring people. You just leave them in the cells to set the control for forever, like you control those people. Those are human resources. You control them. I got all this, mining stuff from here, and you can, still mine, because you are smaller right now. I left this world. I'm so big. I don't have the resources for me in this world anymore. But you have some. You have like 10% of what's left, and you can mine it and still, operate the unit. So this is what kind of explains where those giants could be, living, because they just left the place. And that's it. That's why we don't see them, because what we see is the pictures of small people fighting those giants. But this is really stupid for a giant to create the situation when the small people could be fighting him, right?
We know that, and we know
they're so smart,
right? And we know that the Smithsonian has been covering up the giants, all the giant evidence, and that's why they had to give us the nonsense about dinosaurs and all of that nonsense. They've been covering up. It's overwhelming proof of that giants did exist. My thing is this ancient architecture, to kind of like the quick version. Do you believe that it was the greater, the Tartarian Empire that did this similar architecture that's all over the world, Philip? This architecture, I mean, it's all over the world. You can go to Cuba, you can go anywhere and find this certain type of architecture all over the world. I mean, what's your thoughts on that?
The maps is very big topic, and we should spend more time on it also, because this is just not like a simple answer for that, because we see a bunch of maps, and this is the only thing that we have right now, right? So we
Right.
cannot say that what is the political structure. All we know that there was some country that was called Tartaria, and the elites want us to know it, and otherwise they wouldn't be showing us those maps, right?
I feel like
Okay,
because
this is the leak. This is the leak, and people that first started talking to me, and Lori Frary, she said, "Who's giving all those leaks? Answer yourself. Who's giving all those leaks?
Oh,
Are
wow.
those other good Masons or maybe Illuminates who want us to know about it, or
like a
maybe somebody wants somebody wants a reason for a new reset." So the people started to questioning those elites, and they want to change those elites with the hands of the people, right? The global revolution. Have you heard about it?
No.
Communist revolution,
Oh, communist revolution. Okay.
which is right now a globalist revolution.
Global. Yes. Okay. That makes
The
sense.
globalism.
Global.
Globalism is the revolution when what's the difference between communism and capitalism? Capitalism wants a global power of the capital, and the communists want a global power of the proletariat, which is the working class. But they understand this is impossible right now, and they want the global capital to win first, and then to have the revolution, because that would be the reason for the people to rise up. This is the only thing that can provoke it. And I've been talking about a bunch of times. This is capitalism. What we know is capitalism is not what we know. Capitalism is network of the trading centers and productional centers. Capital is the country or capital, right?
Yes, of the state.
We have financial capitals, we have productional capitals and stuff
Yes.
like Hong Kong. It's not a capital of China, but it's a capital of finance in Asia, like Singapore, like Tokyo, like London. We have City of London, which controls the whole financing flows in Europe, and it's like 60% of all financing in the world. Single City of London. We have New York as not a capital of the United States, but a financial capital of the Americas and the Western world, right? All those, not like LA is the capital of the Hollywood, like it has all these cultural capitals. So you understand, this is the capitalism. Capitalism is igniting people to start moving towards the center of the interest. Okay. And communism is when it's common. Common is like community, like everybody owns it. How can everybody owns that? This is the capital, and you can own the capital only with one thing: when you have a revolution. Okay, so the erasing of the elites is what is planned to be, and this is whatever we want to do. They're gonna force us to do that. They want us to erase those elites right now. Okay. That's why they're giving all those leaks here, there, and they start poking over here, poking over there. Like, when you control a puppet, you have to, pull the strings here, there, and this is how it moves. It can dance, but for the puppet, it's just stupid to see how his hands move. But for those who have like 100-year-old, hundreds of years in their lives, they see those years not just like they're just seconds for them, and we see it as a year, as a long period of time. We don't understand what's going on during the year, and for them it's just a single year, it's just a second, it's a minute. So that's why they see the dance and we don't see it.
Wow, that's amazing. It's amazing. It's amazing just to think about, Philip, what this place is, and what the possibilities, of what this place is. Before we let you go, because I know your time is running out, what do you think this place is? I mean, like, from your research and what you gathered in a quick nutshell, like, some people think it's a simulation. Some people think this architecture is 3D from a 3D imprint. Just what's going on, Philip?
Yeah, the natural base of the 3D world is materialism. You can touch it, you can, feel it. You can have the feelings like a toothache or maybe stomach ache or something like this. You can feel it. That's why it's so natural for you to feel it, because this is what you know. This is you are built from this nerve matter system that is all around you. You can touch it. But for those who created it, it's just a simulation, of course, and it can be working as a simulation. Okay, but
Mm.
each level of comprehension inside the simulation gets its own experience. Like human resources get their own experience. They've been studying, they are studying in the school during their life cycles, and
Okay.
they return and return and return and return. This is like a wheel of samsara. This is old Vedic knowledge. That's what we lost. We lost this allegoric thinking of this, process. For those people that were older than us, they were in ancient times, they didn't have difference between a child or maybe a grandfather and his grandchild, right? This was a single person for them. And when they went on the war, they killed everybody because they just understand that in 20 years those people will return and uh, kick their asses back, retaliate for that, what they happened. So that's why they killed everybody. This is the information that they knew, that those people just the same. Your grandfather is you actually. You are the representation of the experience that he's supposed to have, those lessons he didn't pass and stuff. So he failed something and you get it in return. If you fail something during your life cycle, you also get it back. That's why we have all this, a merry-go-round situation in our lives. This
Okay.
is school for our level of comprehension. The elite level of comprehension, they have more information. They have another lessons. They are trying to be parasites. They're trying to, teach us to understand the logic of this world, to understand what is truth or what is not truth. They're trying to save us from some huge cataclysm, maybe thinking, inventing something, creating something and stuff like this. So they're lessons for them and their school. And for those who control them, also they have another lesson to control all this world so nobody will understand, prevent all this situation, all those start the war, stop the war, start the flood, stop the flood, and stuff like this. They have, pressing the buttons, pulling the strings and stuff like this, having their own lessons. They're semi-gods. They're, for our level of comprehension, they're just, huge, enormous informational bodies. Okay, so everybody has its own lesson. So this is the deal of this place. So we are passing the lesson, we're getting the experience, we're growing as the bodies and going through the next level. We're pressing through the level, we are popping out like this this little frog in the cream can or whatever that made the butter from the cream, and jumped out of the cream. This is just the how this world works.
Sorry, I'm just going to mute my mic for a second.
Okay.
No problem.
So this is the experience school. So we are just like in the school. We are learning to sign all this fake stuff, looking around and saying, oh, this is not a globe. The lesson passed. Next lesson, teach everybody else.
Yeah.
How can you do? Oh, start a YouTube channel. Oh, and this is all a merry-go-round situation. They already had this information. They already had this,
Right.
as long as you don't, do it yourself, you don't believe people. So this is what we're supposed to do. Our lesson right now is to ignite the people to start their own research. This is our lesson.
To have a discussion. Right, to have a discussion. Hey, look, this is what I found. Oh, look, this is what you found. Who are some of your what are some of your favorite YouTube channels on this topic that you like to go to?
Well, I have some in Russian language. I don't think you will be interested, but I know their mistakes, and they don't. What is good in me that I know both ways. I know this and that, and this is the problem with me, that I don't have enough time to tell the people about it. This is just the only thing.
Exactly.
Okay.
But your research, you sparked this conversation, and I tell everybody I point them to go to your channel and look at your, start from the first video, listen to the dialogue, listen what he's saying, look at his research, look at what he found, look at his photos, look at his videos that he shows the evidence of a mud flood,
which is also a seismic activity that some wave pattern of frequency starts boiling the soil, so starts going and flowing and stuff like this. But this is also doesn't fit in what I see, because I see houses that are standing still and straight, right? If you have the liquefaction, all those houses would be sinking, like all those liquefaction videos and footage that we have right now. We see all those houses sinking and all those cars and dipping, and maybe some parts of the houses sinking. So this is not what we see right now. All those buildings are completely safe. They're just flooded with the mud. So this is not the liquefaction technology. The only thing that could be happening is the mining waste, and all those mining waste that could be brought to exact place at exact time and made to flow towards the target. Okay, or maybe they could be unlocking the high pressure mining drill channels that they were made in ancient times. They know that there are mining channels in this town, and they unlocked it, and a huge flow could come up in the city in the nighttime. Who knows what they're doing? And they could do it simultaneously in all those major cities, to create the race in the cities. And they could be bringing the people from the rural areas to the cities after this stuff and tell them whatever happened, and then they massacre those people and then leave their kids and grow the kids and brainwash them. Yeah. And those who wants to get paid, they get paid, and they clean up all this mess and excavate it and then get murdered and cleaned up. Yeah. So this is just operation conspiracy of the mud flood. This is not just a single local event or liquefaction that could be explained like this. And this is, of course, this is the technology that could bring the mountain towards the city, liquefact the mountain, and it could be flowing. And maybe sometimes they use this technology, but I don't say it's a worldwide. In Russia, we don't have so much mountains to bury all those cities. So probably, and in Europe also. So where have the mountains, they could be using other technologies like mining waste technologies and mining waste drop in the night. Who knows? So maybe
something more sinister. All you got to do is stick things in the ground, because that video, I got that. It says, "Oh, it's satellite technology." Well, we all know that satellites is BS. That don't exist, and we know Google Earth. When you look at real time, it shows you like 2 or 3 years in the past of what you're actually looking at. So I'm thinking, well, if they took a real time looking, that was from a military plane. You could just point some directed energy like they're doing right now. I believe in California, there's overwhelming evidence of directed energy burning that place down, where you could direct that energy, make liquefaction, and move off. That's why I kind of try to bring it. I'm like, well, wait a minute. Well, I know satellites don't exist. What the? That's a military plane doing that psyop on that. And like, what the hell is going on? So I'm lost, man.
Yeah, they could be having EMPs on frequency weapons. Who knows? But when you look in the liquefaction and the process of liquefaction, and I've read a couple of professional books about liquefaction. This I don't know, syndrome or whatever. This event is well known in the road builder industry, and they know about it. They know a bunch about it, so they know where to build the roads. Otherwise, all the roads would be flushed by all this liquefaction stuff. But they don't, because they know it and they know about this. Just it's not just unknown thing. It's not a conspiracy, and it can't explain the mud floods just like this. It can be some event in some single time, is like a mud flow or mud slide, whatever. It could be made by liquefaction, and the tsunamis could be made by those weaponry, and the fires could be made from the planes and from the direct weapons. And American army and Russian army has this weapon. When you go towards the village and you spread all these antennas towards the village, all the village is puking, and everybody has a stomach ache and just paralyzed, all like this, and you just go, a couple of soldiers can clean up the whole village. This is what they do. They have
Wow.
all this technology, all this frequency control, and they can do it and scan and know what the hell is going on around. So,
And we don't know. We have no idea what this technology.
of course, of course. But the house is standing still, and you have to understand. If you have a seismic activity like liquefaction, all these houses would be sunk. But they are still standing from the 18th, 17th century, as they say. So, at least 19th century, as you see on the pictures, those houses were already standing. So,
All depends on how we know how deep the foundations are. I mean, we know from all of the
if you
photos.
have just understand what is seismic. You have to be more educated. Seismic is not just a thick layer, a thin layer on the ground. It's just a whole bunch of grounds, and it's gonna be buried this
Yes.
time. So
Yes.
liquefaction is not a good explanation for a global mud flood, as what I say. And I would, if you have more proof on that, I would be.
No, no. I think it's interesting that it makes sense because the buildings are falling down.
They don't even have a crack, because any builder, any constructor would tell you if something is sinking from one side, the building will crack. You have a crack on the walls. We don't have them. Okay, so those buildings are standing still.
Right. The cities, just in mud.
Just understand, 6th or 7th floor and 10th floor building from the 17th century, if it has a crack, would be standing for now. There's no way to protect it for this long. Okay, they had all this technology of concrete and all those special metals and all this anti-rust, all this stuff. Only in the beginning of 20th century, when they started building the skyscrapers. Before that, they couldn't build anything above 6th or 7th floors. So.
You're right. You're absolutely right. Roxanne, is there any other questions you would like to ask Philip? And because Philip, this is our first. I'm glad that you came on the show because this is the start of a dialogue. I mean, this is one of the hottest topics right now going on, and there's so many people with a lot of questions, and we're trying to look for some answers.
Something I wanted to add on to the one question I've got, Philip, and I know everybody's time is precious, so any time you can give us would be greatly appreciated. My only question is, could this be the start of possibly a short course? Because I really want to be up to speed with where things are at with the research.
We want to bring you back on it. Yeah.
If you're familiar with Hillary Clinton, and she was quite in the elites for so long. Her husband was a president, and she was a candidate for a couple of times. Maybe next president elections, she also be pretending to be a president candidate. When she went to Russia, when she was a state secretary, she brought herself some, button or whatever you call it, to press the button, and this button would say reload or reset. So they pressed this button with this Russian foreign minister, and he said, "Look, you spelled it wrong. You said not the reset. You said it overweight." So in Russia, it's like one single misspelling is totally different information. So overweight, like you have a plane that can go up because it has more weight that it could keep carrying. So they pressed the button and probably started the reset as what she wanted to show the public and the media. So we started reset.
In anticipation of this important meeting and our time here together, I wanted to present you with a little gift which represents what President Obama and Vice President Biden and I have been saying. And that is, we want to reset our relationship. And
let's do it together.
So we will do it together, okay?
Thank you very much.
You are very welcome. We worked hard to get the right Russian word. Do you think we got it?
You get it wrong.
I got it wrong.
It should be перезагрузка. And this says перегрузка, which means overcharged.
Well, we won't let you do that to us, I promise.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Very kind of you. Would be on my desk.
Well, we mean it and we look forward to it.
this is my point of view. If you don't ask questions, I think you understand it. So, or maybe
Yeah.
you're filled with this information, you want to go and just leave the place. So I think there are people don't want to know. They see all those puppets and they think they just really don't make any decisions, but they make decisions. Actually, this is a mid-level of management, and we have to watch them because this is the ass that we see above us, and we have to maneuver to don't get a crap on our heads. So this is the what we have to do is watch them, what they do, because this is the only reference that we have right now. So
yeah, I mean, if they sneeze, we get a cold, right?
yeah, all the symbolism that they present to us, this is not just simple BS. We have to watch him. If he says this with allegory, we have to decrypt it and decode it. Like this Rosette Delacroix channel, she also decodes a bunch of things, and I think sometimes maybe those are speculations, of course, but the decoding thing is really good. If people start decoding all the symbolism and start connecting those dots like you guys do, it probably will be good. And if I encourage people to ask you a question in your comments, and maybe perhaps that'll be a good start for next conversation, next chats and stuff like this.
Please, that would be absolutely amazing. If you could come back and have another conversation with us, that would be absolutely brilliant.
Also,
because I'm journey with this.
While I'm sorry to interrupt you, Roxanne. Also, too, is I was trying to look for like any kind of like mud flood Facebook groups that no one started those yet, and that's like one of the hottest topics, because if you get an area, a group where people can upload their evidence of mud flood. And then now you have it this way where you can look at that and say, okay, I can use that, I use that, I use that, because people are uploading from all over mud flood evidence. So I'll talk to you later on about that. Maybe us and a few other people that are into this research kind of start this group and kind of like...
a strange thing that we had a group. It was called 19th Century Cities, Buried Cities and Giants, something like this. It was similar to the first video that I uploaded on this channel about just similar, and it even had a banner from my video, screenshot from my video, but it disappeared for some reason. Like it had like 800 persons and disappeared. So I have my own group. It's called Debunking Conspiracies, but I don't have time to manage it. So if you guys want to manage a bunch of people that are inside this group, they go and upload their photos. In fact, today we had like 20 photos uploaded by one guy. And different. So different topics. I'm not just sticking to single mud flood because it's not as wide as the whole puzzle. Like I also like evidence of ancient technologies and all these cultures and contradictional situations right now in the politics. So all this stuff that is combining and all this puzzle, I started to represent it in one of my playlists, and it was called Mud Flood Puzzle. It was one of the most popular on my channel. So I started to talk about it, and it was like 19 videos, and say, "Oh, I need to stop it because people haven't watched all these 19 videos because it's just a whole bunch of you start pulling the strings, it's just a whole bunch of blocks and new information, just a whole mess, So
yes, I think
I said I need to make a documentary about this, and right now I'm in the process of gathering all this footage and making just the first introduction in the documentary about this mud flood topic and all this fake history of 19th century and all those contradictions that I know, just to be resuming this topic and maybe leaving it for a year or so, because so much information about mud flood right now. A bunch of people have started good channels, and you have to follow maybe their research. Maybe they will bring something new into it. I want to stick to more to what we more all-around overall information. I don't want to be represented as a mud flood channel. I want to be just a personal blog that can be talking on any topic. People ask,
right.
Because for some people, it's not interesting. It could be boring to hear something about the mud flood.
I'm gonna tell you something. I'll be honest with you. I heard Martin talk about a year and a half ago. I was telling this to Roxanne about mud floods, and here I am. I'm probably about 6 months deep into flat Earth. I'm like, wow, this is the most fascinating topic ever. We don't live on a ball. Wow. So when I heard Flat Earth British talk about mud floods, I wasn't ready for that to receive that information yet.
Yeah, right.
I was like, oh wow, he sounds cool, but I don't care about no damn mud floods. I didn't know nothing about, right?
Yeah.
Globe, right? So it took me. How I got back to Martin from Wise Up. Wise Up inspired me to. I found you because when I looked at YouTube, I typed in mud floods. You came, so I sat there for maybe 2-3 weeks. I watched all your mud flood stuff. Every last bit you did, I was like, wow, this guy rubber without a pause. So Wise Up is the one that started me to say, you got to watch Martin because he's talking a lot more about this. So I resubscribed to Martin, and I had to catch up where I was at, and mind-blowing.
So you've got a promise, Philip. Please promise to come back because we want to do this
Absolutely.
again.
I encourage all those people to start their own channels, and this is maybe this is my lesson to not just inform the people but encourage them to act.
Yes, please. Yeah, the more people that do it, the better, I think, because it shares awareness. It brings a conversation.
Yes.
I know, one channel is called Mud Flood right now. One is like Rebellion without the pause. It's a Scottish.
Without a pause.
Conspiracy or Us and Martin Lipke.
John Levi. Yep, John Levi.
Definitely put for everyone who's going to be watching this, we'll put all of these channel recommendations in the description box. We'll try and make the description for the video as helpful.
I tell you a secret. I don't even know most of what you know because you perhaps you watch more mud flood videos than me because I don't just have enough time to do that.
Fascinating. I mean, when people hear this, Philip, and if we get a way where we can have this conversation with people, it sparks an interest because they're like, okay, these people that I'm talking about are people that know that they don't live on a ball, right? But it's something new. Because I don't look at myself as a conspiracy theorist. I like to talk about things that I can prove. And mud flood evidence, that the videos that you show, I can prove to people, look at this. You can go to your own city. I went to my own city, showed mud flood evidence. They don't build buildings like this. You try to find out who built these buildings, it's a dead-end corner. You can't find out who built these. They don't have no records of these buildings. So this is something that we can prove. So I want to say thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule and linking up with us and starting this dialogue. And like I said, have it more structured next time. I'd be like, hey, Phil, we're going to be talking about Starforts, and that's what we're going to be talking about. And we're going to be talking about Tartaria. That's what we're going to be talking about. Groupons, your favorite ones that you got me looking into the Groupons. I found some photos of bodies next to Groupons. Were they living animals? Was they real? They got extinct? That's just a whole nother, conversation.
It was going to be like a little mini course, isn't it? A mini course, in sections. Because like Philip said, we break out one subject. We could go on about it for hours. And that's what I really want to do. I want to try and dissect what's been researched so that we can get to the root of it and try and clarify some of it so that we can go and share that awareness with other people, like Philip said, and encourage other people to do it as well. So
because me and Roxanne was talking about this, was like, who can we bring on that into this discussion that's very that knows about it, and your name, feel the people. I was like, yo, I want to be able to come back or at least show what you do, present what you do. We're going to promote everything, your channel, and tell people to tune in because it's good stuff. Absolutely.
Awesome.
Thanks a lot for inviting. I really appreciate you guys giving me such a high grade of what you say. So if I have time, I watch all your channels and watch more of your videos. So to understand what you're researching right now, maybe to add something or comment something, it would be good.
We understand time's limited. Greatly appreciate it.
And if you're coming out with a video and you want to premiere something, please let us know. Shoot us a text. Also, put us in your group, so that we can, whatever, make us moderators or admin, whatever, we'll help you. We'll help you manage, because when it comes to Facebook, I manage groups. I run the Flat Earth News and Report group, and and that's the mudflood topic is very, 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 very big right now. So I want to be able to give accurate and real to the best of my ability knowledge to people and not disinformation. So
yeah. We have a small community on Facebook already, so I'll be glad if you guys join us.
Absolutely.
And we have plenty of activists in this debunking conspiracy group, so you can find it on Facebook. The name is the name is covering the sense of this group, but so some people are trying to say, "Oh, they're debunking the conspiracy." Oh, what the hell? And live in this place. We have to shake all those, unwanted people. That's why I named it like this. So, I shake my subscribers for a couple of times because I didn't like some comments, and so I start to answering them, and maybe somebody is falling from me and maybe returning to me. So it doesn't matter. At least if things go and the wheels spinning, everything's okay.
Yes, exactly.
I'm not here for the fame, I'm not here for the fame. This is not my.
What you do is you present something. You say, hey, you connect. You connect. You kind of like, just like you said, take the horse to the water and drink it if you want.
That's it.
That's right.
Massive respect to you, my darling. Big hugs to you, and I can't wait to speak to you again.
Okay.
Absolutely. I'll keep in contact with you. I'll text you my email too.
Okay.
And we'll do a dope where you can come and screen share, show what you want, give a nuts, whatever. I'm down. I support you. We support you.
Yeah. Thanks all for inviting. See you later, guys.
The control system, the global control system, wants us to focus on a dot. This is what it does in science with its specializations. You focus on one dot. And if you focus on a dot without peripheral vision, then you don't see how the dots connect. So you're completely in the dark of the bigger picture. You only see one dot within it.
This world is not what you think it is. This world is not what you think it is.